Did you know the Bible talks about money and possessions more than 2,000 times? That's more than it talks about heaven, more than it talks about hell. In fact, if you sit down and read it cover to cover, you'll find that from Genesis to Revelations, money, wealth, work, and possessions are constant themes. But here's the problem. Most people have never actually looked at what it says. We live in a world buried under credit card debt, buy now, pay later schemes, endless ads for things we don't need, and an economy where most families are only one or two paychecks away from disaster. We work harder than ever, hustle longer hours, and yet feel like we're never caught up. And yet, thousands of years ago, people were dealing with the same struggles: debt, greed, poverty, inequality, and the daily question, how do I provide for my family? The Bible is not a financial book, but it is full of financial wisdom. Wisdom that can completely change the way you see money, work, or even life itself. So today, we're going to break down the forgotten money principles of the Bible. We'll look at what ancient people practiced, how it shaped entire cultures, and most importantly, how these timeless lessons can still help you live a simpler, freer, and secure life today. Let's dive in. Part 1. Debt is slavery. Let's start with one of the most famous verses about money in the Bible. Proverbs 22:7. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is the servant to the lender. That verse is thousands of years old, and yet, doesn't it perfectly describe modern life? Think about it. Student loans, car payments, mortgages, credit cards. You can work a full-time job and still feel like you don't own your life because your money is already spoken for by banks, lenders, and creditors. In ancient Israel, debt wasn't just numbers on a screen. If you couldn't pay back what you owed, you could lose your land, your harvest, or even your freedom. Families would sometimes sell themselves into bond service just to pay off a debt. You literally become a servant. That's why the Bible is so strong on this point. Debt is a form of slavery, and it's why God even gave laws to protect people from drowning in it. For example, in the Old Testament, there was something called the Year of Jubilee. Every 50 years, all debts were canceled, slaves were freed, and land went back to the original family owners. Imagine if every 50 years, every mortgage and credit card bill was wiped away. Why? Because the Bible recognized that unchecked debt destroys freedom, families, and communities. And here's the kicker. Today, we're in the same place. The average American household has over $100,000 in debt. We are living the very reality Proverbs warned about thousands of years ago. The takeaway? If you want to live simply, if you want true freedom, don't chain yourself to debt. Live below your means. Avoid borrowing whenever possible, because debt isn't just financial, it's spiritual and emotional bondage. Part 2. Contentment over consumerism. Next principle. Contentment. 1 Timothy 6:6 says, godliness with contentment is great gain. Do you notice that? Great gain doesn't come from more money, more possessions, or more stuff. It comes from contentment. But let's be honest, we live in a culture built on discontentment. Our entire economy depends on you feeling like you don't have enough. Every ad you see is designed to make you think you're missing out unless you buy this product, upgrade that device, remodel this kitchen. But the Bible cuts right through that. Think about the Israelites in the desert. Every morning God provided manna, bread from heaven, and the command was simple: gather what you need for the day. Not more, not less, just enough. If you hoarded it, it's spoiled. The lesson? Enough is enough. Contentment is about recognizing that more doesn't always make life better. Sometimes more just makes life heavier, and history proves it. During the Great Depression, families often lived with far less than what we have today. One pair of shoes, one simple wardrobe, home-cooked meals, and yet many people reported feeling closer as families, stronger in communities, and grateful for even the smallest blessings. The frugal living takeaway is clear. If you want to be rich, stop chasing more. Learn to see what you already have as enough. Part 3. Saving and preparing wisely. Proverbs 21:20 says, the wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. In other words, wise people save, fools spend it all. This wasn't abstract. In Bible times, food security was life or death. If you didn't have grain from the harvest, you starved in the winter. That's why Joseph's story in Egypt is so powerful. He stored grain during 7 good years, so that when famine came, he had enough to feed nations. Today, we don't face famine in that same way, but the principle still applies. Too many people live paycheck to paycheck, spending everything they earn the moment it comes in. The Bible's wisdom is clear. Save, prepare, build margin. In practice, that means an emergency fund. It means a stocked pantry. It means planting a garden or learning skills like canning or preserving food. And here's the wow fact. These aren't new prepper ideas. They're ancient biblical wisdom that kept people alive for generations. Part 4. Generosity as True Wealth. This one might surprise you. Proverbs 11:25 says, "A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." That sounds backwards. If you give away what you have, shouldn't you have less? But over and over, the Bible flips this idea on its head. In Acts chapter 2, the early church shared everything. People sold land and possessions so no one was in need. Their generosity built one of the most resilient communities in history. And history confirms it. Communities that take care of one another survive harder times better. During the Great Depression, neighbors shared food, clothes, and even housing. The Amish still embody this principle. If a barn burns down, the whole community shows up to rebuild it in a day. Generosity doesn't shrink wealth. It multiplies it by building stronger families, stronger friendships, and stronger communities. The frugal takeaway is, don't cling so tightly to your money that you lose the wealth of relationships and community. Generosity is a form of wealth that the world cannot take away. Part 5. Work ethic and honest labor. Colossians 3:23 says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters." In other words, work hard and work honestly. The Bible never condemns wealth itself, but it strongly condemns dishonest gain. Think of stories like dishonest scales, corrupt tax collectors, or unjust wages. Work was always meant to be good, something that gave purpose and dignity. Contrast that with what our modern culture of shortcuts, get rich quick, lottery tickets, scams, chasing easy money. The Bible warns against it all. Real wealth is built slowly through honest labor and skills. For frugal living, the lesson is clear. Focus less on chasing money and more on building useful skills. Skills last. Money, that comes and goes. Part 6. Rest and simplicity. The Sabbath principle. Here's something radical. The Bible actually commands rest. Exodus 28 says, "Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy." Think about how revolutionary this was in the ancient world. Most nations worked every day, sun up to sundown. But God told his people to stop, to rest one day a week, to live simply enough that life didn't consume them. Even more radical, every 7 years, the land itself was given rest. Farmers didn't plant crops. The land took a Sabbath. Imagine telling a modern farmer to take an entire year off from planting, yet the Bible commands it. The lesson? Life isn't meant to be endless grind. True wealth isn't just about money. It's time, peace, and simplicity. In a world obsessed with hustle, the Sabbath principle reminds us that rest isn't wasted time. It's survival. Part 7. Avoiding greed. Luke 12:15 says, "Watch out. Be on guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." Then Jesus tells a story. A rich man had so much grain he decided to build bigger barns. He thought he had it all figured out, but that very night, he died. His wealth meant nothing. Greed has always been a trap. In ancient times, it destroyed kings and empires. Today, it fuels endless consumerism, debt, and emptiness. The Bible is blunt. Your life is not measured by your stuff. And if we're honest, most of us know this deep down. The things that truly matter, faith, family, relationships, health, they aren't things you can buy on Amazon. The frugal lesson is, don't let greed steal your life. Live smaller, live simpler, live free. Part 8. Trust and provision. Finally, we come to trust. Matthew 6:26 says, "Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them." This doesn't mean be lazy. Birds still work. They still gather food, but they don't worry about themselves into despair. The Bible's money wisdom always balances hard work with trust. Work diligently, save wisely, live simply, but at the end of the day, trust that you'll have enough. Communities like the Amish still live this out. They work incredibly hard, but they don't chase endless more. They live within their means, and they trust that enough will always be provided. The frugal takeaway is, simple living is not about deprivation. It's about trust. Trust that enough is truly enough.